So we also saw Alita, Battle Angel.
Alita!
Which was pretty fun.
I loved it. Alita, Battle Angel is the story about this cyborg doctor person in the future, I guess, of a post-apocalyptic Earth. And he finds this half cyborg girl kind of thing, and he's like, "You're still alive." And then he gets her, and then makes her body, so on and so forth. And then you find out that there are these people that are out to kill her, and other people robbing robotic body parts. And
that's the first few minutes. Yeah. The story of Alita is 20 episodes of an anime crammed into a movie.
I love this film. I've seen it twice. I almost saw it a third time. I was gonna, after Glass, I was gonna go see it again. It captivated me. And I think the reason why is that even though the script is a mess, a lot of the other elements really worked really well together.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. But yes, I think that the way that you described it was perfect in the sense that it felt like way too much exposition. A lot of the dialogue was exposition.
Yeah.
And it felt like that they were trying to explain so much to us. And when I was just like, oh, I really just want more character moments, please. Kind of helped itself because Alita, the main actress who played her, she... even though she was a CGI character, I really felt like that she emoted well enough to be like, I actually trust you. I get the feeling that you're actually a good girl, that you're a good person, you're trying.
That was the key to making this movie fun, was having her be such a likable and kind of magnetic presence on screen. And the way that they fused a live actor with CG, it worked really well. I was very skeptical when I first saw the movie. About the movie.
Yeah, when I first saw the trailers, if I could grab your glass, I would be like, oh, that's too much.
Yeah, you see a picture of it, it looks kind of cheesy. But in action, it works because it's just like the big eyes and the slightly exaggerated facial features are just inhuman enough that it communicates that she's not a regular person.
Yes, and that's what made the Uncanny Valley effect negate itself.
Yeah.
Because usually with Uncanny Valley, you have like Grand Moff Tarkin and Rogue One, and it's just like, ooh, that doesn't look very right, or Leia in Rogue One. And, because you're trying to trick your audience into believing like these people are actually there. This one, it kind of works because you have these giant eyes, but so you're trying to tell the audience like, we're kind of trying to trick you, but not really. Yeah. So it worked in its favor.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. So I didn't find myself like looking at it through the movie going, that's not realistic. That doesn't look right. No, the effects really worked the whole movie, I thought. And there were maybe a couple of moments where you get a little like Uncanny Valley-ish.
Well, there were a few moments where I was like, okay, I can really tell you're CGI.
Yeah.
But other times...
But it was the minority. Most of the time.
Yeah, the script just like really was just... it was enough for me to notice because I was just like, there's just so much in here where it's just like, does it make sense? Like, okay, perfect character moment. There's this whole thing about how she has been given this brand new body, right, that the father built for his daughter that died. Gives it to Alita, and Alita finds this cyborg body that was made specifically for her. And perfect character moment is like, he's like, no, I can't give it to you. And she says, but why? Why won't you give it to me? Because it's a battle droid body.
At the end of that, he says, I'll never do this ever. And then like the next scene.
See, and that's why this doesn't work at all. Is because the entire point is like, it's a perfect character moment where it's like, instead of being like, he learns the errors of his ways, like, you know what, you're actually destined for this body. I'm gonna give it to you. She gets mauled apart. Like all that's left is her torso and her head and like just like a little bit of like her arms and all that. And so now he's just kind of forced to put her in the new body. And immediately after the scene that he puts her in the new body, he's just like, oh, look, you're so beautiful. And he even says, you're meant to be in this body. Or he says something. Remember?
Yeah, what he says is, no object is good or bad. It's what you do with it that matters.
Yes! This is so stupid!
Yeah. I think that is my biggest complaint with the script, because even if it's a mess, like in terms of a lot of threads, there's too much stuff going on, that's one thing. But when it's actually undercutting the emotional impact that it's trying to achieve, that's the problem. Because in that case, it's actively contradicting the thing you said before, which is like totally removing any impact it had. I felt that the Motorball scenes in the first half of the movie, so like the first two scenes at least, they felt incongruous with the rest of the movie.
Like they were just thrown in there?
Yeah. I didn't feel they fit. I felt like the emotional state that she was coming up with leading up into them was different. Like, we never got a scene of her like, wow, I'm capable of murdering people. That's a big deal. Like, I just fought these people off. And then she's just like laughing and having fun in the next scene with the motorball. That felt off to me. It felt like two different plots that needed to be spread out further. So
yeah, and that kind of ties into what you're saying. Like, a lot of anime episodes put into one.
Right. So I'm not saying it's not right for the character, but I'm saying they felt too close together without enough breathing room, so that I felt like there wasn't like a transition between them.
And also, like, another moment that would have been nicer is when she's put into the new battle body. We're never really shown like how much more badass the body is or anything like that. It's just kind of shown like, oh look, you're in the new body.
It's kind of purple.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the fact that like it can make a plasma sword or whatever, but that's it. We're never really shown like what else she can do. Like, we're never really shown like, okay, your old body can do this, and now your new body can do this. We're never really shown that. It's just kind of like you're doing the same thing.
Well, they did show late, like in the last battle, when she gets stabbed in the side, it like heals itself.
Okay.
So
okay.
I guess they show it then, but not earlier than that.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it would have been nicer to shown like, because the father made such a big deal about how she can't be put into this body.
Yeah.
You know, and it would have been also, I don't know, it would have been cool too to see her like learn from her robotic body.
But they would have needed more time for that. So I think if they'd have taken out some of these elements of the movie, I'm not sure which ones. My initial thought was some of the motorball stuff.
See, but that's the thing, is that like there's so many things that they should have emphasized on. Yeah. I think that's what would have helped this film a lot. But that's the issue, is that there's so much in it that they need to emphasize on so much. So I think what really would have been better is that if this movie was a TV show, which I mean it was an anime.
Oh yeah.
But I mean either a TV show or split up a bit more, or just like.
Or miniseries at least.
Yeah, like a miniseries, or just like split it up a little bit more, because there's just so much they need to explain to us, and there just wasn't a lot of time to explain it in. You know, it kind of suffers from what like a lot of fantasy films suffer from, which is we gotta get a lot of exposition in there in a really fast amount of time.
We find out that he's the bounty hunter, and then he gets hit in the shoulder. He's got like flesh like poking out of his jacket.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's pretty bad. The very next scene, his shoulder's fine. Like,
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he's wearing his like scrubs as when he's doing some doctor stuff.
Okay.
And it's just normal. There's no. So I feel like they must have shot that out of sequence, or they just missed that detail. There were things like that where that contributed to some of these scenes feeling like it wasn't really connected that well to the previous ones.
And I think that's kind of goes into more territory of like, you know, the people that say you gotta read the manga, you gotta watch the TV show. But to them, I say that should not be the reason why you can enjoy a film.
Yeah.
If you go to watch film, it should do the job by itself. I don't want to go read no 300-page book. I don't want to go onto the Wikipedia or anything like that. The film should be able to tell you exactly what's going on in its own way. You know, it's the same, like, go read comic book. Okay, read the comic book. Okay, I get the comic book. Like, no, you gotta read 5 other comic books. Like, I don't want to read 5 other comic books.
Yeah, but the Marvel movies do not rely on you having read comic books.
Right.
You know, they don't say, oh, you're not going to get this movie if you haven't read Iron Man issue 255.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no. You just come watch the movie. It's going to be fun.
I enjoyed seeing the Motorball scenes. Like, the action in there was really fun. I really enjoyed it. But I would have actually liked to know, like, how the game's played. You know, I was kind of thinking about to, like, Harry Potter. You know, like, it's really simple to tell that, like, oh, here's the Quaffle, here's the Snitch, here's the Bludgers. Simple. I understand I understand what's going on.
Right.
And I feel like it would have added such a bigger element to it if I actually knew what was going on. So
they pretty much just grab the ball and then murder each other.
that's what it's. Yeah, that's essentially what it is. Like, they should just call it Murder Ball.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I was thinking to myself. The name was. I'm like, that Murder Ball game was weird. Wait, that's not what it's called, was it?
Yeah. One thing I really didn't like about it, which I just kind of felt like was really cheap, and I was really surprised because I love Robert Rodriguez, love his films. I think he's a great filmmaker, but they used the dog.
Yeah.
A lot of times in film, like, they'll use a dog just to elicit a cheap emotion because it's cute, it's cuddly. If the dog gets hurt, you get hurt. It's just an easy way. You see a lot of it in horror films.
Yeah. And it seemed like a cheap way to make us care about her putting like those things on her face. It's like, that's dog blood. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, and see, that's what it would have been more effective if it had more time. Is that, like, if you actually establish like an emotional connection, like the dog actually came back with her, like lived with her in the house or something like that, And that's another thing about like a qualifying moment where it's like, why is she putting the blood underneath her eyes? Like there had to be like a backstory to her.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause she's a battle angel or whatever. So like, you know, you should like have a flashback or something like showing her putting on war paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like just like we need to know a bit more about this world or like what you're trying to tell us. Besides just throwing us in. You know, and I feel like a lot of people can like learn from like Lord of the Rings because there is so much exposition just thrown at you, but it's done so well. And I think that's why Alita herself works so well. Because in Lord of the Rings, you know, in the behind the scenes, they say we just cast John Rhys Davies as a dwarf, and you automatically know everything about dwarf culture. You cast Alita, I know you're a good girl, I know you're a good person, I trust you, things like that. Speaking of acting, I did not like Hugo.
Ugh, no, he was a definite weak spot in the movie. And the acting was part of it, I'm afraid.
And the way he just said things like, I'll show you my secret spot. No, Alita, it wasn't me.
It was doubly bad because the film wanted us to care about him and care about their relationship, and then feel bad when he dies at the end. I did not care. I didn't feel anything from any of that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I guess we should go into spoiler talk now. But, the guy kills Hugo, and then Alita is able to decapitate Hugo somehow, and then like attach the head to his heart. To her heart. She brings the head over, and then like they put it on this cyborg body, right? Only to have him die in the very next scene again. There's like, why couldn't you just have killed him? Like there was no emotional impact by having him stay alive. Like he only stayed alive for like 5 more minutes. It would have been better if they had someone who was on the same charismatic level as Alita.
Yeah. Then
when the thing actually happened, be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah, and the way that they handled his like dark side didn't work for me either. For it to impact us, I think they should have built it up so when Alita finds out about it, we find out about it. I think it spoiled it by showing us, oh yeah, he's doing this stuff on the down low. But he's like, we don't see him really being mean. We just see him like kind of being the same personality the whole time. It wasn't like he was hiding a dark side really. He was just doing this kind of punk thing on the side. He wasn't killing people. There was something there in terms of, oh, I'm harvesting people just like you. But I felt they kind of brushed it over because they're like, oh, he never hurts people. He just like takes their pieces. And yeah, he knows he's doing the wrong thing, but he just played it very flat.
See, wasn't a fun character. He was just really boring. And the script just kept him alive a second time for some stupid reason.
Yeah. I think because they wanted another scene where they're like trying to go up into the thing and then showing the people up in the floating city like there's something insidious going on up there, as if that wasn't clear enough.
I guess, but then there was no point to even have him die in the first place. Also, how the hell did she know to go up on that one giant cable? Out of all the other giant cables that are there, how did she know to go up that one?
I don't know.
Okay.
They didn't illustrate she had like super sight. Could she see really far or something?
That actually would have been a nice touch.
It would have been a reason for them to design her with these big eyes. It really feels like they had a much longer story that they had to cram into a smaller space because most of these elements would have worked better if they were stretched apart more.
Because at the very end of this, the ending feels very rushed and put together. I feel like what happened is it was almost kind of like the Hobbit kind of thing that was going on because it felt so rushed that at the very end they were like, you know what, maybe we could try to squeeze another film out of this.
And I'm pretty anal about all this plot stuff, but you know, it didn't bother me enough to make me not enjoy it.
There was so much going on in here that the film made me feel that you don't necessarily need to pay attention to what's going on up here.
Really, a movie is about the experience you get. And if people are getting a positive experience out of a movie, I think it's achieved its goal, at least enough of it to be considered worthwhile. It's hard to say, well, the plot had all these problems, therefore it's not a good movie, but I kind of liked it and people enjoyed it.
It's a really fun movie. It's a good time. I would really hope for a sequel. I don't know if it's going to happen.
I'm surprised to say that I want a sequel because a lot of...
I am too, actually.
Yeah, like a lot of similar movies like, I don't know, like Venom, for example. A lot of people liked Venom because it also had a good main character that people liked, or at least the screen presence that people liked. But I wouldn't want to see a sequel to that.
Because, I mean, Tom Hardy is a likable actor. Like, he's a very highly likable actor, but for some reason, like, I just didn't get that same feeling.
Yeah, because I think the world was a lot more boring, though. You didn't get the feeling
That's
of
true.
like going into this new universe and learning, like feeling kind of immersed in this different universe, you know?
Yeah.
And this had a colorful cast of characters around Alita, too. Like, I liked most of the side characters.
Yeah.
The boyfriend was weak, but, you know, like the hunter killers and the bad guy was a little boring. What did you think about Christopher Waltz?
He was fine. Some of his delivery was a little bit just kind of like blah. It's just kind of like bleh.
Stiff.
Yeah, it was kind of stiff. Sometimes I got the feeling that he didn't really want to be there. Most of the complaints I would have with acting was mainly for the script, the dialogue that they're giving, because it's just like so bad, and it just didn't make any sense. It was just kind of like, how do I get to the next scene? It's an example of something that doesn't go anywhere, a plot detail where he says you have a very human brain. And I thought that they were going to go somewhere with that, but they never do. You know, that would have been interesting to be like, you have a very human brain. Like, that's a huge plot element in this world of cyborgs, especially how everyone else feels like all the other cyborgs are human, because everyone acted really human. Maybe
Part of it they were tying into how the harvesting of other cyborg parts and the harvesting of human parts, like everyone's doing this apparently. Like there's a lot of value in just cutting things out of people and taking them.
Yeah, apparently.
So maybe the people up in the city, the floating city, they want human parts because they're trying to live forever. Something, I don't know. They think they're better than everyone else.
It was also funny in the very beginning when, you know, Alita is suspecting that father is the one who was being reported as the one that was killing people.
Yeah.
Just by an assumption that his arm was bleeding. Oh, your arm's bleeding, that must mean you're the killer. Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it was very clear to me that obviously he wasn't going to be the killer.
It was very movie logic, where it's just kind of like, we're going to set it up, but it's not going to be real.
And it was still a cool scene, like when she realizes that he's actually a good guy and then she's fighting the bad guys. That was fun. But it made the movie feel like a mosaic or like a kaleidoscope where it's like, we're not going to reference anything that happened in that scene again. Like, I mean, obviously we know that he's not a killer now, but that doesn't leave a lasting emotional impact on the characters or anything else. That's why it felt like several episodes of a TV show, of an anime, that were, you know, mashed together. They had all these separate stories that were kind of self-contained, like you have the Motorball stuff, him being a hunter killer, you have the boyfriend stuff, you have finding the suit, you have fighting the hunter killers and like first being kind of friendly with them. Like it just felt like all these different things that kind of didn't quite mesh together as much as I would have liked. I really think what set it apart was that Alita worked. That was just such a big difference. Like when you have a core thing to your movie like that is in almost every scene and that, you know, the audience are really connecting with, the other stuff matters a lot less.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if your plot is weak, if your cinematography is weak, if your music's weak, that doesn't necessarily matter as long as you have a good, strong, compelling main character. Because that, mostly for films, it's the emotional pull that connects you to a film. You need that emotional connection. You need to be drawn in. And yeah, just like you were saying, when it's repetitive, when it's in every single scene, that's what really connects you to it. Because I've seen films where I've not been emotionally connected, like Glass. Like, I don't care about anything that's happening. I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I see Alita and I'm just like, wow, I really care about her. And the funny thing is that it's a double entendre because she's a cyborg. And I care about her.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's kind of like a Bumblebee thing where like you care about Bumblebee and about their relationship because it's like because they achieve that, they just make a good character.
Yeah, and it's amazing what that can do for you. And it's even another double entendre because both of those characters are CGI.
Right. Like, so even if Glass had really good cinematography, really good editing, really good effects, even if it had all those things, I don't think I would have liked it that much more.
I might pass it on to someone and just be like, hey, this has really great editing.
Sure.
You know, something like that.
Yeah, with Alita, I was like, I agree. I felt a lot of things, even though like with the boyfriend stuff, I was like, I'm not feeling anything. But it didn't wreck the rest of the movie, though.
Also, do you know Grindelwald is played by Jackie Earle Haley?
What? Oh,
yeah.
God. I knew he was familiar.
Yeah.
His face was familiar to me, but I didn't. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It didn't sound like him at all. Like, you don't imagine, like, such a scrawny dude
Yeah.
to be like, hello, little flea. Like,
Yeah, it was great. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Edward Norton was the Nova guy.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, for a second I thought it was James Cameron. It looked like him.
Okay, bottom line is Alita should have committed to an arc for each character.
Yeah, it didn't have any arcs.
Each character had like different threads that kind of went in different ways, but they didn't really tie together into a satisfying resolution.
I don't know, it's so interesting because even though there wasn't an arc and even though that there wasn't a satisfying resolution, it just kind of felt like an enjoyable, just kind of like journey.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of like, hey, we're going to the supermarket today, gonna get some milk and eggs when we're gonna come back, and that was it, and I liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that, and yeah, bottom line, I think that in order to make it a more effective film, the script needed to be tidied up, and they needed to explain a lot more or cut a lot more.
Yeah, oh, geez, but that's like almost like, how do you do both things? There was already a good bit of exposition in the movie. So how do you explain more without doing more exposition? Like, you gotta show more in some way.
Yeah, you have to show more. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
the Lord of the Rings thing, you know, like when they're showing the immortality of the elves.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're showing Elrond, and they never say that he's necessarily immortal. They just kind of show that in flashbacks, like in the prologue, and then you meet him later on in the Fellowship of the Ring, and then he says, I was there 1,000 something years ago. Like, oh, okay, I guess he's immortal then. There you go.
Right. You don't have to have him say, and I was immortal, so I could never die.
Yeah, exactly. Explain a little bit more and try to cut a little bit more, even though that'd be extremely difficult to do, or just expand the movies more.
Right now, it feels like this is about 2/3 of a story.
A very long story.
Yeah. So, like, turn that into 3 movies. Fine. This could have been 2 movies out of that, you know? In the 3rd movie, we're going to go into the Sky City and we're going to fight people. Like, so that would be the end of this movie, right? Yeah. So just somewhere in the middle here, just cut it and then stretch it out. Because unlike like The Hobbit, where they're stretching stuff so thin,
Yeah.
like in this, you have a lot to work with. I think you really could have given this stuff more time.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think that they really should have cut it a lot more earlier, because now all we have to go off of for the sequel is just like she needs to kill Nova. At the end of Empire Strikes Back, you know, Luke has lost his hand. Han Solo is frozen in carbonite. He just found out that his dad is Darth Vader. You know, all of these, like, oh, what ifs? What are going to happen and all that? And this one is just kind of like, well, she got to kill Nova.
Yeah, like everything else is kind of wrapped up a bit.
Yeah. There's not, I don't know. They're going to have to do a lot more, like, to make it really strong.
Yeah, they'll have to add a lot of stuff, and it's not just going to be as simple as finishing up this story. It feels like the last like leg of this story would have been that, but clearly if they make another movie out of that now, they'll add more stuff and it'll be more going on. Obviously, the execution's a little disappointing, but they got the important stuff right.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's great to look at. It's
a great adventure film.
Yeah, I think most people won't be as bothered by the plot as we were.
No, there's still enough in there to just be like, hey, this is great, this is fun, let's go see it. I would highly recommend it. I would say go see it. Like, it's a really fun movie. It's a good time.
I thought it was fun. I'd recommend it. Maybe not highly, but
go see Alita.
Go see Alita.
And drink scotch with you.
Well, especially if you see glass.
Yeah.